Well, this piece of news started over in your neck of the woods over at Amazon. They're looking to discontinue celebrity voices for their lady cylinders.
Even if you paid for them. If you bought Samuel L. Jackson's voice for your lady tube, they're taking it out. In the next few months, they're going to pull them.
I can't even imagine Home Assistant doing this kind of thing with their year of the voice, like somehow retroactively pulling Popey's voice out of
I know.
out of the system. You know, I want my Popey forever.
This is what made me think of it. Just as Home Assistant is doing the year of voice, it seems that Amazon is undercutting and underfunding their Smart Assistant division. All the celebrity voices are going away. No real reason has been given. If you want to go through the rigmarole of going to support and asking them for a refund, they'll do it for you. But they can't be bothered to automatically credit your account because there's just no way they could know. How could they? How could they know? You know? And then, you know, I heard this, Alex, and I thought there is this kind of reoccurring theme that we see, especially with Amazon and these others. Google also just announced that they are discontinuing integration with many of the to-do services out there, like AnyDo and others for Google Assistant. They're just turning off the API access. You know, they're not really going to do that anymore. So if you use the Google Assistant to add to-dos to your list, you're not going to do that anymore. You can still use the Google apps, though. It's like they just keep changing the contract on us. Amazon also just had to pay out a lawsuit, quite a bit of money for Ring sharing more than just what was authorized, but sharing all kinds of videos. Almost every week, we see something that makes me shake my head and go, this is why we got to self-host, and this is why I think I'm getting more excited about Home Assistant's Year of the Voice and the work they're doing over there. There's a lot of things they could be spending time and energy scaling out on, and I am, the little bit of experimentation I've done, I'm really glad this is it, because it's producing upstream projects that you can use for other stuff outside of Home Assistant as well. So it's like a double win.
Well, it's not just Amazon that have been having a bit of a weird week with regards to doing DRM type stuff, I suppose, or having issues. The Emby project had a hack this week. So if just a public safety announcement, really, if you're running an Emby server, make sure that you are up to date on your patches. There was a remote code execution vulnerability combined with a proxy header vulnerability recently fixed in the beta channel, and this allowed an attacker to gain administrative access on such systems.
Oh, not good, Alex.
Not good at all.
Good to know. Well, speaking of cleaning things up and purging, I was kind of curious about your habits in terms of going through your file server and determining if it's time to clean things up and where you draw the line. And of course, I'd be curious to know where the audience draws their line. I was looking at the file server and I was getting down to 100 gigs free. And that's kind of my red line, right? That's like, because when you start getting low on space, it just becomes exponentially harder to migrate that data. It's always easier to do it before you run out of space. And so I started looking through there, and I was using various command line tools, because this is over an SSH connection, to try to suss out what is the most large, like what are the largest files, what's the most like storage dedicated to. And one of the things I saw in there was my vlog source files. Because, you know, I did like 60 vlog episodes years ago on YouTube. And I kept all the source files because there's a lot of drone footage in there of our neighborhood and trips that we went on and locations all over the country.
And Noah crashing it into a tree.
Sure, yeah. And there's also probably clips of the kids being young and cute, just that kind of stuff. So I just decided to always keep it. But I've never once in years ever gone back to it and looked at it. So then I started looking at it, and it's, you know, a couple of 100 gigs. Actually, I think it's like a terabyte worth of stuff. And it would be such a huge job to go through and extract those ginormous raw files anyways. And I have a lot of pictures from that time and era. Plus I have the produced videos. Like, where do you draw the line on what you're going to clear out? Or do you just always plan to add more storage? Because that's what I've been debating. Like, should I really add more storage? Or could I go through and delete these 16 movies I'm never, ever, ever going to actually watch? And all of these source files for these projects that I was doing years ago, video projects I was doing years ago, I'm never going to reopen those projects. I probably will never go through the source footage, even though I know there's stuff in there. Or do you hold it all, thinking like maybe one day some AI tool is going to come along and just scan it for you and categorize it for you and make it all retrievable? Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, what's your approach?
Now, there's an angle I hadn't considered for AI. To go through all my thousands of hours of drone footage that I took when I first got my my first drone.
As soon as you delete it, they're going to come out with some sort of project like that they'll go through and auto-categorize, auto-tag, auto-locate.
It's an interesting discussion, actually, and I think it speaks to a strategy that I adopted. So my storage is kind of divided into two halves. I've got an ephemeral area, which is typically what I use MergerFS for, and that is often for stuff which has been acquired, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is very easily replaceable, so commercially produced stuff, right?
You could go buy that Blu-ray again and back it up again if you needed to.
Yes, sir. I'm not talking about the drone footage of my trip to Croatia in 2016, for example, where I'm never going to be on that day again in history. And, I think for me, anything that is completely irreplaceable, no matter how asinine it seems or how inconsequential it seems to you now, there may be some point in the future where you look back and think, oh, I wish I had the footage that I took in the car on the way from New York back to Washington when I went to the Ubuntu Summit, 8 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's true. I would have a bunch of footage from that trip to New York. Yeah, and also, if you get 20, 30 years down the road, that drone footage is a time capsule of an area that won't look anything like that anymore.
And, I think of it like this. I put all of that data onto a ZFS mirror or an array of some kind. But in my case, I've got a 14 terabyte ZFS mirror, which I then replicate to two different places. One in the closet next to me up here. So main server's in the basement, backup server is up here. And then I have my old UK server, as you probably know if you've listened to the show for a while, where everything gets backed up to again. But I look at these files that I'm keeping them for myself, yes, on some level, because they're memories, they are moments in history, moments in time. But I look at photo albums when I go to my parents' houses and I look back at my parents when they were younger. And I see the way they look at each other, the clothes they're wearing, the vehicles they're driving, the locations they're at. And you can kind of piece together from the stuff you hear about your parents talking about over the years. You can piece together bits of their history that they've either forgotten or just didn't have the time to tell you for whatever reason it might be. And so almost I feel like I'm keeping some of those more unique memories, not for me, but for kiddo when she gets a bit older.
Yeah, I could definitely see that with the vlog too, because there's a lot of footage of them and, their home, their surroundings, all of that.
The other aspect is maybe she'll get the inevitable hand-me-down photo album, look at it and go, what the hell is this? And throw it in the bin.
That seems equally as possible.
But that's her decision. At least she's then got the option.
Yeah. So I decided to keep it for now. And I've gone through and just found other areas I can cut back. One of the things that I discovered is when you have a lot of files, like Final Cut archives or a lot of media files or something like that, there aren't a lot of great command line tools to go through and analyze your usage and give you information quickly. I love NCDU. I've been using it for 200 years. I've been using it before your grandfather was born, but man, is it slow. I mean, so slow. To scan my file server here, it took 20 minutes.
200 years, huh? 200 years.
Yeah. Time traveler. So I went out and found a better tool. I found a better way. I believe it's a Rust app too. It's called Dua, Disk Usage Analyzer. And it did the same exact scan. And I'm not even kidding, in 15 seconds. It was way better.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's way better. So it's called Dua, the Disk Usage Analyzer, and it's a tool to conveniently learn about the usage of your disk space. And you can either just run it against a directory, or you can put it in interactive mode and browse around the file system and get like actual bar graphs and stuff of the usage. And it works just like you would expect from a tool like this. Quick, easy. If you just want a command line output, you can get that. Or if you want the interactive kind of ncurses style, of course, I was using this over an SSH connection. And then The other thing it touts, I can't really testify either way, Your Honor, but the other thing that the defendant claims is that it also will delete faster than RM can delete large directories and large files. I will say they delete fast. I don't know if it deletes faster than RM, but it works, so I'm pleased with that. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes. It's a Rust tool, so it's available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And if you want it on Linux, you can just pull down the binary and just run it. It's also packaged up for Vue distros.
Shouldn't you be saving the Rust tools for Linux Unplugged with your week of Rust that's going on?
Dang it. Well, yeah, I had to save the best one. This is really the best one of the bunch, I think. But, just managing this problem with my server, it does make me realize, there is a machine that has been missing from my life. And I have tried the Synologies, I have tried the QNAPs, I have tried using different NASs from IX Systems, I've tried intermediate boxes, and then I've also done Unix Surplus and bought old big towers and converted those into NASs, which are really enterprise systems. And so we had a chance this week to chat with two gentlemen, Doug and Mitch from 45Drives, who you're about to meet. And 45Drives is setting off to develop a quote-unquote home lab server that kind of sits in this area, that kind of bridges the gap between the enterprise gear and the consumer gear. Something that isn't $5,000, but something that isn't $800-900, right? Something you could afford for your home lab, but it's a serious tool, and something that obviously Alex and I would be very interested in. And so they joined us this week. Tailscale.com/self-hosted. Now you can get up to 100 devices for free when you go to tailscale.com/self-hosted. It's a great way to support the show while you are checking out the best VPN in the business out there. Simple, secure, a flat mesh network built on top of WireGuard. And you can get it up in minutes. I know you don't have all day anymore to spend on these types of projects. I understand. I've been there. Of course, there's lots of ways you can do this, but Tailscale is the ultimate accumulation of what we were hoping WireGuard would give us. It lets you easily manage your devices quickly. You got 5 minutes. You can get it on 3 systems. It'll set up a secure private mesh network where they connect directly to each other. And you can leave Tailscale running persistently because it's intelligent enough what needs to route out to the Tailscale network versus what should go to the public internet. That matters because leaving it on all the time means that network is all available all the time, always. So now you can start setting up your dashboards to use the Tailscale IP. Or for Home Assistant, you can start using the Tailscale IP instead of the internal IP. You could even start using DNS, and Tailscale supports something called Magic DNS as well. It starts getting ultimately powerful. And with up to 100 devices, you can start putting your containers in there, your VMs in there, every mobile device you've got. You can truly put every node on your tailnet and stop going over the public internet. I don't have any inbound firewall ports on any of my networks for any of my systems. It's all over Tailscale now. Even my phone syncing is over Tailscale. I love WireGuard. I'm so happy to see this. And they have lots of tooling too, like Tailscale Send, Tailscale SSH, all these tools that build on top of your tailnet to let you move things around and authenticate quickly and efficiently. And of course, there's ways to share with access controls that you can audit. And there's integration with enterprise login systems that supports multi-factor authentication. It's really top notch. You've got to try it. It'll change the way you network and it's going to improve it. Tailscale.com/self-hosted. Go there to support the show and try it for free forever for up to 100 devices. Tailscale.com/self-hosted.
Well, joining us on the show today, I'm really excited to welcome Doug and Mitch from 45Drives. Doug is the president and co-founder, and Mitch is the lead storage architect. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Happy to be here.
And we thought we'd talk to you today. I probably, like most of our audience, spend probably a bit too much time on Reddit. And I saw your post recently about the upcoming home lab server that you guys are working on.
Home labs. So for 45Drives, and some of your audience may know us, and those that don't, we make big, strong, fast storage server systems. We do single servers clustered, but it's professional market stuff. So it's enterprise. The company's been a great run. We do things differently. We call it new enterprise that we do. It's open source, open platform, no vendor lock-in, just a whole different thing. Buy what you want, get the services you want. We have full service if you want it. But we got a group of people who love computing and we love storage. We love big monster beasts, 19-inch rack mount cabinets that weigh 140 pounds or something. For they're fun to play with. We got computing in our blood, and the home labs world has always been, it's been exciting for us, and a lot of us are involved in that ourselves. Mitch is hugely. I'm not so much anymore. I'm just getting a little bit older and to involve my entrepreneurship. But Mitch is deeply into it. So we have a bunch of fans of the home labs world, and but we've never really made a product for it. So that's our heads have turned there.
I've been familiar with your products for a very long time through various very famous YouTubers, the Storinators, all that kind of stuff, and I've drooled over your gear for many years. But, the price ranges of those products, they're not aimed at home users like me. So I am super duper excited that you guys are targeting this segment.
Yeah, we've got a whole lot of fans that kind of have been homegrown over the years with a lot of our YouTube campaigns, with a lot of the influencers. And like all the techies, all the people that work here that are on the tech side are like me. We're all deeply ingrained in this stuff. Like it's not just a job, it's our life and our really passion, right? So I'm super excited about finally being able to start to offer something that I would be able to afford, you know what I mean, normally for something like this. So yeah, it's huge for me for sure. And I'm very excited to roll this out.
So I've been wondering, I kind of get the sense that you might be closer to market than the post on Reddit 1 month ago kind of implies. You were reaching out to the community and asking for input on what would be a great server that fits somewhere between the consumer NAS that you can buy, say, at Best Buy right now, and a massive multi-$1,000 big enterprise system. And I don't know, I guess reading through this post, I kind of got the sense that you already have a system in mind. You kind of have at least a target in mind. Can you share sort of what that vision is?
Sort of.
We do things very fast.
Yeah. And so our development, will be really fast. We have a sister company called Protocase that's the fastest manufacturer in the world. Does metal and surround electronics. It does electromechanical assembly and the like too. So we have that there, and it's lightning fast to do it. But going to this market, we got to figure out exactly what we can build. If we use the analogy and say what we make in the professional and enterprise market is let's say it's an 18-wheeler. So it's a big double trailer 18-wheeler, and you got 800 horsepower turbo diesel and big stacks and incredible power to it. Great, but it's too expensive for home use, and it won't fit in your driveway.
Okay.
And the other end of it, we recognize that out there right now, if you just want NAS to put on a home network, and I say a home network, not home lab network, and you can go buy, I don't know, a Synology or QNAP or something, whatever, you get 4 bays for a couple $100 a drive bay and an $800 device, and they're good, but we'll call that the small car, the micro car with a little utility trailer behind it. And then somewhere in the middle, there's something that probably looks like a heavy-duty pickup truck with a good-sized diesel in it and extra strong suspension. So if I use that analogy, we know where we want to go position-wise, and we went to Reddit, we're going, really, what exactly is that? And, a bunch of questions, because we all know, you can get that, stars in the eyes about the 18-wheeler, and it's too much. So what is right? That really is our question. And once we get our hands, our minds wrapped around starting point, there's going to be a line, and let's get our minds around the starting point. It will be pretty quick by the time we get there, but we're still trying to figure out exactly what it is.
I see. So there must be some kind of target applications that you want to make it possible for the end user to run. There must be some sort of workloads that you're thinking of, and storage and applications are both part of that.
Absolutely. So we take a look at what I think the average home user would do, or the home lab user would do. And then we were like, okay, let's take a look at these things, right? Like a lot of people will run a hypervisor or some sort of compute. A lot of people are running media servers. A lot of people are running things like Nextcloud, VPNs, all those types of things, right? So we wanted to, rather than throw those out there though, we just wanted to say, hey, what are the top 5, top 10 applications that you guys are interested in? And, we really love the idea of having the ability of, one-click containers to, deploy a Plex server or a VPN or something like that. But we also want to leave the wires hanging out, so to speak, for the more advanced users that really want to get underneath the hood and do some customizations on the Linux side. And that was a big part of when we developed Houston, which is our user interface or web user interface used to manage our storage servers. And that was a big part of that as well, is we want to make it easy and simple for a lot of our users and our customers that aren't highly technical Linux users, but they need to be able to do everything that a very highly technical user can do. And so anything that you do in the command line doesn't get overridden by the UI and vice versa. And so we want to take that same approach to the home lab market as well and have it best of both worlds for both types of users.
And if I could add in that too, there's a fundamental thing, storage power. We take it for granted around here. We got our group, the group that Mitch works in that does architecture, configuration, and service. And we get to move around massive amounts of data and get to move it very, very quickly. We love it. It's great. You put a huge machine together. You set up, you got a bunch of data in there in well thought out arrays with redundancy, but parallelism in it. And we help people do crazy transfer rates where we're getting 5 gigabytes per second flowing out of a single box. And doing single client transfers, filling a 10 gigabit line and just the one transfer to one client. And it's fun and it's doable. Anybody who loves Linux, we can teach people how to tune things up and do that kind of stuff. But a question for us and what we do and what people are going to do with it is to what extent that heavy duty storage, fun to play with, but do you have the network bandwidth and do you have any place for it to go? And we don't know because people do all kinds of things in the home lab world, right? It's such an interesting group of people.
I love to hear it. And it sounds to me like you're going after that kind of yummy middle where Unraid users meet Proxmox users meet maybe ESXi users. That kind of middle ground where if I wanted to build a server capable of hosting enough VMs to make it worth my while, so say I'm playing around with Kubernetes or something at home, I want to put 64, maybe 128 gig or more worth of RAM in there. A lot of, consumer grade motherboards just can't handle that. And then I think to myself, well, it's a server. I need IPMI in there. Wouldn't it be great if I could just buy an off the shelf power supply as well? So, how are you guys thinking about the actual hardware that's going into this? Are you going to use commodity stuff or are you just providing a chassis?
It's price point, It's like we can design whatever. And ideally, the idea of just having a chassis as a base and then putting out some options for, if people want to put, what we'll design to be compatible so you can put in a consumer grade power supply if you want, or and the option to put your own motherboard in. But we'll probably look at offering some professional, grade, motherboards that have all the features on it, but it comes down to price point. It's we're a cost plus company, and in the enterprise market, our systems sell for quite dramatically lower than the legacy enterprise vendors. And we call it new enterprise. We'll sell in the same thing. There's no big value pricing and making a grab off it. Well, in the market, it isn't there, but there's cost base in it, right? You want all the bells and whistles. Well, the bells and whistles cost, and it's got to flow through. So what I'd really love to do, look, what we do, here's the advantage we have as an organization. We are sort of in the cutting edge of low volume mass custom manufacturing. And we can customize things better than anybody can. And we're just going to really play with that and see what we can do in this market to see what we can do to get options out there. And then the market will tell us, we want these initial conversations. They're absolutely great to get us some starting points. And then you put stuff out there and you see where people want to go, right? And what do they want to spend on, right?
So anybody listening to this who hasn't seen the posts on Reddit or anywhere else you've posted, what's the best avenue for them to direct their feedback to you?
info@45drives.com, I think for now is something that people can reach out to today, right now. Something that we're working on right now in the background is bringing back the 45 Drives forum. So we had a forum many years ago, and it kind of went away in lieu of our support page and the way we do support now. But we think that's really important to bring that back. So that is definitely going to be another big thing that's coming down the pipe very soon. And we're hoping that's going to be kind of homegrown and everyone kind of helps each other. But we're also going to have our own service team that is going to be manning it daily. And one thing just quickly, what I wanted to just jump back on kind of what 45 drives will be offering in the home lab. You look at what do we do right now with our storage servers that's unique. And I think of our density and also our PCB backplane and our no multiplexers. So our PCB backplane is really friggin' cool. I love it. It's a fantastic design that we've done. And the fact that we don't use any multiplexers. So I think those are going to be huge carryovers into the home lab. And I think it will be immensely important to have no motherboard as option as well.
I was going to ask, for those of us that aren't familiar with what a multiplexer is.
So when you get into large storage servers, one of the things that we do very differently to make it economical to build a very large storage server, the Chinese made large storage servers, they'll plug hard drives together in 5 SATA drives. And typically they're on SATA. Well, everything's in SATA and port multiplication. So typically 5 drives will share one SATA port. When you do that, you end up really, a spinner. We kind of use 200 megabytes per second as its throughput. So, a couple gigabits per second. It doesn't take too many of them before you completely plug up a SATA port. The multiplexing is, 2 of them, in fact. Yeah, so you lose bandwidth on it. And it's also, it's a pain in the butt driver-wise. And you try to operate these things, you bump into driver problems. So we did something, we pioneered it a number of years ago in large storage servers. We call it direct wired, direct lane from hard drive through to your HBA adapter, which has the ability to handle the bandwidth of all these drives. So that's it. Yeah, multiplexing is, multiplexing good if you want large archival servers and you want to make them at the very lowest dollar. Mm-hmm. But it's not us. It's not big, fast, strong.
So what sort of form factors are you thinking? A rack mount thing or something that sits on a shelf or what?
So the feedback that we got back, and I think it's dead on, is we got back 4U, 2U are kind of the ones that we're shooting for right now. And then also it's going to be rack mount, but with the ability to screw on some rubber feet and have something that's going to be pleasing to the eye that you can put on a desk and still be very nice and look good, right? So I personally have a Storinator at home, one of our older versions. And I did something very similar to what you were talking about. Like I put a regular ATX power supply in it. I put a couple Hyper 212 Evo Cooler Master coolers, some Noctua fans, and now it's very, very quiet and just sits right in my rack and is just like a beautiful server for me. I've had it running for a few years. So if we can translate that to the home lab, that'd be fantastic.
I love it when you talk to a vendor like you guys, who clearly is actually passionate about what they're talking about, and you jump in and say, I had a Hyper 212 Evo cooler. Like, you obviously are not trying to BS us. You definitely are talking the talk and walking the walk. So what is the thing that's probably going to be the most challenging?
We can build that 18-wheeler, that Australian road train with 3 trailers, the biggest engine you ever had. We can build it. It's finding what the market wants. It's just a subtle matching between what the market wants and what makes sense for people, and price point, and trying to find that. Because if we just go crazy and put out something that has, every bell and whistle and full horsepower and full size, it ends up being a professional line, right? So we got to figure out what works. The chassis is a great idea. We sell chassis, then people can let us know. We can watch what people are doing, getting feedback. What are they putting in for electronics? What are they running on software-wise? Get a sense of that. We can tune into that. That's where we got to get to on it. It's knowing the market. And when it comes down to, as I said, the other end of it is a place that, challenging. We just know we got to stay out of there. Look, we're North American designed. We're more North American manufactured, and we do stuff and, we mass custom manufacture it. If you want cheap, it's not us. We're not exotic price. We're not a Maserati, but neither are we your entry level automobile or whatever, right? It's not it. So
we talked about this the other day. Some of the big enterprise companies have to pay the steak dinner bill, and they charge a lot for the servers on the other end as a consequence.
Yeah, you're paying for a triple 3 times over on the back end.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, that's an enterprise sales. You go to buy something, enterprise vendor, they take you to the best steakhouse in town, buy a steak dinner, and your organization's paying for it after they buy it from them.
Yeah, in the long run. Yeah. Well, Doug, Mitch, this is right up our alley. We look forward to seeing what you guys develop. So keep us posted on how things go. Just let us know when something's developed and keep us in the loop, okay?
I would love to come back on when we have a couple more updates for us, maybe a month or 2 down the road, and when we got something a little closer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just into, feedback, digesting it, just into our creative meetings on it right now to see what we develop. Our development teams, it's great fun for them. It's really a fun project for us. So yeah, we would love to share it.
Our sense is it feels sort of like you guys are in the right direction. Sounds like you're building a product that Alex and myself and a lot of our audience would probably be interested in. So
I'll buy it.
Yeah. We'll chat again soon.
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Linode.com/SSH. Go there for $100 in 60-day credit. Really kick the tires and see the exciting news. Linode is now part of Akamai. All the developer-friendly tools you love, like their beautiful cloud manager that's well-designed, the API that's documented and has lots of libraries in your favorite language, and the CLI I use to take quick snapshots or upload to their object storage, all that stuff that we enjoy, that really make it possible to build and deploy and even do it at scale. All that stuff, it's still available, but now it's combined with the power and the global reach of Akamai. And Akamai is investing big. They're expanding services to offer more cloud computing resources and the tooling we love while giving you that classic, reliable, affordable, and scalable solutions for individuals and businesses of all sizes. And as part of Akamai's global network of offerings, the data centers are expanding worldwide, all over the world. Lots of them. They're going in big, you guys, and they're giving you access to even more resources to help you grow your project, your site, your business, and serve your customers. It's how we've been doing it for years now, and we just wouldn't do it any other way. Nobody does it better, so why wait? Go experience the power of Linode, now Akamai. Go to linode.com/SSH. Learn how Linode, now Akamai, can help you scale your applications from the cloud all the way out to the very edge. Linode.com/SSH.
We got a lot of feedback over the last couple of weeks about Obsidian, a couple of choice quotes from various listeners. Dimitri wrote in agreeing that Obsidian is truly the way, and he suggests SyncThing for Android users.
This is a popular one. Not a great option for iOS, I have to underscore. But if you got SyncThing on your desktop or your server and you got SyncThing on your Android device, you can basically use Obsidian Sync. Well, that for sync. And multiple people wrote in and boosted in saying it works. I, of course, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I have my primary use case is the desktop. Then my next use case would be my Pizel 7 because I'm an Android user now. But in the garage, I have an iPad with a keyboard that I want to use for notes while I'm working out there. And so I have to be able to sync to iOS. So I did it, Alex. I bought Obsidian Sync. One of my favorite things, and one of the things that really put me over, this is stupid, but when you told me that Obsidian Sync syncs themes and plugins and that they were per vault, I was in. Because then I could have vaults. So the wife and I are sharing a login, sorry, Obsidian, and she just opens the vaults on her devices she cares about. And it works perfectly. And I have them like kind of more minimal plugins. I have a nice theme for her. So far, that's working really, really well. I've also had to shift from like the Evernote philosophy of capture everything and then sort it out later to just with Obsidian. I think it works better if only capture the things you think you might need later and link to stuff. And that's just a transition I have to make, but I think it's one I'm going to get behind.
It's really interesting for documentation though, as well. Like I don't typically use the graph view for very much at all, but as I've been, acquiring notes ahead of this track day I did at the weekend for the car, what brake pads did I run? And then even whilst I was at the event, like what were my tire pressures after a certain session and just...
Oh, interesting. Yeah. You'll forget.
Yeah. It's important to keep a record of that stuff. Like ambient temperature was this. And so my tires came in at the end of this session, at this temperature and with this pressure, etc. Like normally that stuff would end up in a paper notebook and I'd have to physically go and get it and remember that it's linked in my mind to the car, for example.
Right.
But what I did was just quickly at the track, I just did a bracket 2019 Golf R and then that linked that back to the main page for the car. And then I have a data view query that looks at every note that has that phrase in it or that backlink in it and then shows me, it's almost like a table of contents for the car. And then it goes to those subnotes underneath it. And that's that kind of wiki style functionality in plain text notes. I have no idea how they've done it, but it is absolute magic.
Yep, the magic is in the linking. Lewis wrote in saying, well, he was perfectly happy with Joplin until the last episode of self-hosted, and now he's migrating to Obsidian. Yeah, we had that sentiment come in across the various channels. I'm sorry about that. I hope you are suffering, and I hope it's going horribly for you, so that way you feel slightly, just a little tiny bit of the pain that I've had to feel for the last few weeks, and I hope you continue to endure it. No, not really. But a little bit.
It's a good project, I think. And I know at this point we probably sound like Obsidian shills or whatever, but we've got no relationship to them. They're not even really technically a self-hosted app in the truest sense. They're not even really open source either, which is a bit of an awkward one to be talking about so much in the show. But I think from a data sovereignty point of view, that's where it absolutely wins out. And that's always the balance we try and strike on this show, is some kind of a pragmatic balance between the various principles and pillars of the different aspects of self-hosting. And for me, Obsidian really wins out because I own the data 100%. They've got the local files on my disk right now in front of me. I can open them in any editor I want, not just Obsidian.
Yeah, for me, that was the deal breaker. Was I had to have the files offline. I wanted to have them locally in a standard format if I could, Markdown in this case. And that's the way exactly that their sync tool works, is it syncs the files to your local file system. And the fact that you can put something like sync thing in the back end or Git or something else to move those files if you'd like, I think gives me the option to say, well, okay, I'm done with the sync thing service. Thanks so much. See you later. I'll do another way one day if I want. So I was okay with it.
Have you tried mixing and matching sync services yet? I mean, I know the Obsidian sync service works across all platforms, but it was almost like a insurance policy. Like,
I was initially trying to do it over Nextcloud, but then couldn't get real-time syncing to mobile, which really kind of sealed the deal because the wife needs the full mobile experience, Alex. You know what I mean?
Did your iPhone turn back on yet?
Yeah, it did actually. After it sat for a couple of days, I think it fully drained itself. And then I plugged it in again and it booted up, I had to do the full charge. So I think maybe it was like locked up and it just wouldn't go anywhere till the phone died. But I tried plugging that sucker into a Mac. I tried plugging it into the wall outlet, all the things. I tried I tried holding all the buttons you're supposed to hold. I did the whole dance.
I feel like Apple's on a weird trajectory at the minute. Do you feel this too? Was it Ventura, the latest macOS? This is going to be a complete tangent from the doc, by the way. But have you ever tried to set a static IP on the new version of macOS?
No, I don't think so.
It's an absolute show. It just doesn't do it. So like a couple of months ago when I was doing all the networking stuff, well, we never talked about this in the show, but I was trying my damnedest to set a static IP on, because I knew what the IP address of a certain thing was on the network. The DHCP server was down. I'm like, right, if I give my laptop a static IP, I can get into OpenSense and turn the DHCP server back on again and everything will be fine. But the new macOS, nope, you cannot manually do that.
No.
Under certain circumstances, which includes no internet.
No way, dude. No way. No way. You're telling me. No way. You're telling me when macOS doesn't have an internet connection, it doesn't let you set a manual IP? No way.
It's a feature now in Ventura that, was it 11 point? God, I don't even know what version numbers
That's
are now.
blowing my mind.
I'm on 13.4 over here. Yep. It's frustrating as all hell.
Well, at least the machines are $6,000 when you properly spec them.
Well, it makes that framework that we talked about in the post show last week look smarter and smarter, doesn't it?
Oh.
I cancelled my pre-order for the AMD one, by the way, because we talked in the post show last week about QuickSync and how if I'm going to use it as a server.
One day you might.
And the Thunderbolt stuff. Yeah, so I've gone for the pre-order for the i5 framework, which will also be here in a month or two, hopefully, not 6.
Yeah, that's also nice. I'm still hopeful that the Asahi project gets a really, really competent headless Linux server setup. So that way I can just use like an M1 Mac Mini as a home server or something. That's what my hope is.
I hope so too, but let's be honest, you're dreaming, lad. You're dreaming.
I'm dreaming about a Hunnigan who boosted in with 40,000 sats. Just says, great show. Thank you, Hunnigan, for sending in some value. Active Shadow came in with 30,000 sats. sending in from Fountain. Just say, I wanted to say thanks for the show. I was curious if either of you have ever used the VS Code dev containers. I live by them. They keep my base Arch Linux with Hyperland install clean. It allows different versions of languages for different projects and makes sharing the development environment easy. That's a really great idea. I don't, but I do use the VS Code web server. I'm sure you must use that too, Alex.
Yeah, I do love the VS Code in a container. I actually use the heck out of it in Home Assistant. It's kind of built in as one of the plugins. I use the heck out of that over there. But I don't know if you remember, we talked about that I went to All Things Open in October. And I went to a talk by a chap called Scott Hanselman, who is a developer, I think a developer advocate over at Microsoft. If you've never heard Scott talk, by the way, and you see him on a conference schedule, ignore all the other sessions that are clashing with him. He is one of the most engaging speakers you will ever have the pleasure of going to listen to. But he gave a presentation about VS Code and the dev containers that were in there. I remember at the time thinking, yeah, these look amazing. Why aren't I using these? And then got home and, I don't know, had to give Archie some scritches and forgot about it. So thank you very much for writing in. I will put this at the top of my list and give it another look.
It does look really fantastic. I was just looking it up while you were talking, and it does look great. Kyocera comes in with a row of MIC ducts, 22,222 sats. Chris asked about something like Fasten and would it work without insurance? We were talking about that tool that lets you connect to your medical records.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. The insurance provider isn't responsible for the health records. The doctor's office is. Says that's why it's huge. And Apple Health doing this was also massive. And the idea being that you could electronically connect in over an API, get your medical records and store them yourself, and then just have them next time you go to a doctor or a specialist. What a concept. What an idea.
When I read this boost in the doc, I actually went and looked on my iPhone and looked in the Health app, and it turns out I can also connect the Apple Health app into, I think it's the MyChart system that my doctor's office uses, and it works just as well as Fasten, except I assume the data is stored somewhere on Apple's servers as well as my iPhone. I don't know.
I think it is stored locally in your Health app. But I think they encrypted in the backup to iCloud. Like you could maybe open up the Health app on another iCloud connected device and find out.
That's a good point. Maybe I should.
That's interesting. Okay, I didn't know you could do that with. I do remember something about being able to pull in records, but I never really know how much to trust the Apple Health app. But I've never heard of anything leaking from it.
It's quite nice. Like the blood test I talked about in the last episode, it showed me all the different ranges of things that I'm fine for and a couple of things I need to work on and that kind of stuff,
It pulled that data into the app and visualized it?
In the Apple Health app, yeah. As well as Fasten too. Fasten did it as well. It was great.
That's cool. That's useful. And if it truly is private, that's really great. Legit Salvage comes in with 10,000 sats. Hearing you talk about your notes made me think, are you talking about notes and document management as the same thing? Do you distinguish the two? Since I haven't found any open source solutions yet, I don't have a good comparison. Closest I would think with the Microsoft world would be like using OneNote for notes versus SharePoint. OneNote would be more creating data like grocery lists, things like jotting down phone numbers, other things. And SharePoint would be the finished searchable product, scanned mail, receipts, warranties, documents. I currently use the Notes app in Nextcloud. It works, but I'm not satisfied. I'm also searching for the SharePoint replacement out there. I want to pick up a nice document scanner to scan every piece of paper in my home and any documents going forward and make it searchable. Something like paperless-ngx, perhaps? I haven't tried it yet. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've tried both of them a couple of years ago. Was it last summer? We went back to England for my sister's wedding, and my wife is a music teacher. She teaches piano, clarinet, that kind of thing over the internet and on Zoom to some people, and some people come to our house and that kind of thing. And she wanted to scan in the sheet music and have it searchable with OCR, for example, for various different pieces of music, rather than carrying 25 piano books across the ocean.
Yeah.
And we use paperless really heavily for that. And I think she still uses it for those particular books. But there's no reason why. I mean, OCR is OCR, really. I mean, there are different qualities of recognition, I suppose, but it's really up to you how you divide these things up. I mean, the context switching of documents versus notes, that line is a gray one, and really only you can draw it. And it depends whether you want to have everything in one place or have, like you say, bills and receipts and that kind of stuff in one place. And then like I talked about, like tire pressures and stuff, that kind of, in the moment notes information somewhere else. It's your knowledge base. It's up to you, I guess, how you draw the lines in it.
Been thinking about the same kind of questions. I'd love to know your thoughts. Anyone out there listening or Legit Salvage, what you come to. It is useful to have all that stuff. And as somebody who pictures themselves on the road for multiple months at a time, you want to have a system for inbound mail and scanning it. And you don't want to carry all that around. So I'm always interested in people's thoughts there. I want to say thank you, everybody who boosted in. We do the top 4 boosts on the show. Todd from Northern Virginia also came in with a row of McDucks, but didn't have a message, but just wanted to give him a shout out. And thank you, everybody else who boosted in. We do read them. There were some great ones in there. And Gene Beans gave me some tools to check out, a few things to look at. So thank you, everybody. If you'd like to boost in the show, I say go get Albie, getalby.com, top it off with some sats, and then head over to the podcast index. We have it all linked in the show notes. You can just boost right there from the website. And of course, you can also subscribe to the show via the membership program, and you can support it with those Fiat Fund coupons. We absolutely appreciate those members. That is at selfhosted.show/SRE. You get an ad-free feed as a thank you. And that post show Alex was referring to, what post show? Yeah, our members get a post show. And it's just a way of saying thank you. Selfhosted.show/SRE.
Fiat Fund coupons with no debt ceiling limit. Hooray!
They print what you have to work for. What could go wrong?
So if you want to find out more about the various different places I'm online, you can go to blog.ktz.me and go to the About Me page. All my YouTube, Twitter, all that kind of stuff is linked over there. If you want to write into the show, you can go to selfhosted.show/contact. Don't forget to let the 45 Drives guys know your feedback on their project as well. I think they said info@45drives.
Yeah, and show notes at selfhosted.show/98. Thanks for joining us.